A thesis is a structured document that presents your research in a logical and detailed manner. It typically consists of 5 major chapters, each with specific content that contributes to the overall understanding of your study. Let's break them down in simple terms with examples. Chapter 1. Introduction. This chapter sets the stage for your research. It begins with the background, explaining the context of your study. For example, if your thesis is about improving mental health services, you might write, "Mental health issues have risen significantly, yet access to effective services remains limited." Then comes the problem statement, where you identify the specific issue your research addresses, such as, "There is a lack of understanding about how community-based interventions impact mental health outcomes." You also explain the purpose of your study, like, "This research aims to evaluate the effectiveness of community-based mental health initiatives. Include research questions, e.g., how do these interventions influence patient recovery? Objectives. To measure the impact of intervention X on recovery rates, scope. This study focuses on urban communities in Spain. Next, the significance, e.g., findings could inform better policies for mental health services, and define key terms, like community-based intervention or recovery rates. Chapter 2, Literature Review. This chapter surveys existing studies to provide a foundation for your research. You discuss relevant theories and studies related to your topic, focusing on dependent, independent, mediating, and moderating variables. For example, if your study examines the relationship between exercise, independent variable, and stress reduction, dependent variable, you might include mediating variables like social support and moderating variables like age or gender. You also present your research framework, which visually depicts these relationships and form hypotheses based on past studies, like exercise has a significant negative relationship with stress levels. This chapter demonstrates your understanding of the field and highlights gaps your study will address. Chapter 3, Research Methodology. Here you explain how you conducted your study. If you used a deductive approach, testing theories with data, describe why it's suitable. For instance, this study uses a deductive approach to test the hypothesis that exercise reduces stress. You elaborate on quantitative methods, such as surveys or experiments, and define your population and sampling. For example, the study targeted 500 adults aged 18 to 40 living in urban areas. You describe data collection methods, like online surveys and questionnaire design, ensuring the questions align with your variables. Ethical considerations are crucial. Mention how you obtained consent and protected participants' privacy. Finally, outline your statistical analysis plan, like using SPSS for descriptive statistics or SEM for hypothesis testing. Chapter 4, Findings and Analysis. This chapter presents your results and analyzes them. Begin with data screening to ensure your data set is clean and usable. Provide a respondent profile, e.g., 60% of participants were female with an average age of 28. Use descriptive statistics to summarize your data, such as averages or percentages. Then test the validity of your measures using techniques like EFA, exploratory factor analysis, or CFA, confirmatory factor analysis. For hypothesis testing, include methods like SEM to examine relationships between variables. If your study involves mediation, explain how mediating variables influence the relationship between independent and dependent variables. For example, social support partially mediates the relationship between exercise and stress reduction. Present your findings clearly with tables and graphs for better understanding. Chapter 5, Discussion and Conclusion. In this chapter, interpret your results and compare them with previous studies. For instance, this study confirms findings by Smith that exercise reduces stress, but adds that social support plays a mediating role. Discuss theoretical implications, such as how your findings contribute to existing theories, and practical implications, like recommending exercise programs for stress management. Highlight limitations in your study, such as a small sample size or limited geographic scope, and suggest improvements for future research. Finally, provide recommendations, such as future studies could explore the impact of exercise on stress in rural communities. In summary, each chapter serves a distinct purpose. The introduction sets the stage. The literature review builds a foundation. The methodology explains your approach. The findings present your results. and the discussion ties everything together. By following this structure and including relevant examples, you ensure your thesis is clear, comprehensive, and impactful.